Good, good.
We're at the
Great day for a ball game.
We're at the ballpark. How can you be doing better?
Hey, where else would you rather be?
You're kidding? So I got to see the movie in the summertime, and let me tell you, terrific, great movie. My favorite part is when you're at the golf course, you're all hanging around, having a couple of sodas and kicking it around.
Sodas? We're having sodas, were we?
I thought that was great. I thought that was a terrific part of it.
Yeah, it was a good time for all of us to get together and sit down and tell stories, and get to do that chance too often anymore. So that was special. That really was.
How was it feel with RA? He's rejuvenated the pitch, and to the point where hopefully Cy Young
I want to pitch again.
Yeah, I know.
No, he's got it going. I don't think there's any knuckleballer that ever started out a season like he did. Yeah. I mean, he's making us all proud, boy. Every day, if I don't get to see him on TV or radio, first thing I do in the paper is see how he did the night before. Yeah, he's making us all proud.
Now that the pitch will now become something where maybe other pitchers, maybe in the minor leagues, will say, you know what, let me give this a shot. I know Frank Viola's son is starting to, and Frank has talked about that. Yeah. So do you think maybe this is something where guys will say, listen, if I'm not making it, throwing fastballs or something, maybe if I can try to master the pitch and maybe
That's a very possibility. I think the documentary, the movie, will explain that a lot and show young guys who can't throw 90 miles an hour, 92, that this is a ticket to the big leagues. The thing is, there's going to be somebody to teach them. There's no, well, we're available, I know that.
It's interesting how all you guys came to knuckleball. Each of you have a different story. You and your brother, because of your dad, R.A. Dickey, because, the surgery. Could you tell us a little bit, I saw in the movie, but for these guys, about your dad and how you guys came to throw the knuckleball?
My dad was a coal miner back in Ohio, and threw very hard, got articles, him strike out 17, 18, 19 guys, hurt his arm for this coal mining team. Another coal miner taught him how to throw a knuckleball. So by the time I was old enough to start playing catch in the backyard, he just threw me one, and I didn't know what it was. I probably hit me and asked him what it was, and then we just got to the point where we were playing knuckleball in the backyard all the time. Didn't know what it was. Didn't know there was knuckleball pitchers in the big leagues. It was something that when we choosed up teams, me and John Havlicek, my hometown, we choose up teams, the old bat thing, and that's so I could get guys out with. And the girls that played on our team. So I did play Little League, played a couple years of American Legion, 4 years of high school, went to a walkout camp in Wheeling, West Virginia, right across state line from where I was born. And I was a 18-year-old kid with a knuckleball, and the Milwaukee Braves took a shot at it. I pretty much knew that was the ticket. That's all I had.
What was it like facing, knowing you were going up against, say, a Tom Seaver as you did the playoffs in '69, your kind of arsenal versus his kind of arsenal?
Well, I never thought I was facing Tom Seaver. I was facing Bud Harrelson and Don Glendening and Charles, all those guys. Tom was hitting ninth. When I got to him, then I thought about him. And when I batted, I thought about him. Other than that, I had other things to think about.
Who's the best catcher?
Was your own pitching coach able to help you with the way Ari talks about, needing, to counsel guys like you as opposed to?
We were pretty much on our own. There weren't too many pitching coaches then or now in the big leagues that know a whole lot about knuckleballs. So we have to talk to each other. We have to look at our own, videos, and sometimes we don't know what we're doing wrong, but usually another knuckleball pitcher could fix something out before maybe a manager or pitching coach can.
Do you think that R.A. Dickey's hot start, his incredible season has started to validify the knuckleball a lot more than just a trick pitch in general?
Well, I never thought it was a trick pitch. People say freaky pitch, funky pitch, trick pitch. All I know is that's what I could throw and get him out in the big leagues. I think that's what Tim realized, that's what R.A.'s realized, and my brother. Knuckleball pitchers, we don't think we're freaky. We just got something a little different than most guys do, and we're going to throw it. And that's the name of the game.
I was going to ask you that. Do you get offended when people say that? I've seen, there's no such thing as a trick pitch. I mean, it's a pitch. It's a defective pitch. I don't know why people feel like there's like some kind of trickery around it.
I don't know. I don't know. I've always wondered that. To me, it was just, again, a pitch I could get guys out. High school, American Legion, in minor leagues and the big leagues. So if you want to call it freaky, go ahead. I call it, I stick it to the big leagues.
Now, I know all the catchers say that it's such a tough.
Hey!
Good. Great to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Good to see you. Well, here we are.
Yeah. Let's play catch, huh?
Yeah.
Can I pitch tonight?
Yeah. How you? If you had to, could you try one? Seriously? I love it.
You go to first 8 and I'll pick you up. I'll close the 9th out.
Sounds good.
Oh man.
All right, how excited are you about the movie?
I'm really excited. You know, I got to see it at Tribeca. The film festival is fantastic. I think they've done a beautiful job on it, and I think it really communicates kind of the relationship that we all have with one another, as well as with the pitch, and I'm excited for it. I think it's going to do great.
And how cool is it for you, for a 300-game winner, to be thrilled that you're bringing back, you know, it's not his pitch, but it's a lost art, basically.
Well, I am not a self-made man by any stretch of the imagination. I've had people pour into me like nobody's business. So I'm simply a product of people who have loved me well and given me the gift of what they know, and Phil and Tim and Charlie, they represent that for me. So to get to celebrate the documentary with these guys is just a real blessing.
Which one of you has the best number?
I'm
He does, and he does.
I'm going to point to this guy.
I'm going to point to him and him.
The guy that's run 300
And
games.
Charlie, my brother Joe,
I
yeah.
saw you in spring training, and you were showing the grip to some of the guys. It wasn't this year, it was last year. Is there anyone that you're trying to actually show the pitch also to? Maybe in
Whoever
the
wants
minor
to learn
leagues
it. Whoever wants to learn it. You know, I think that was one of the things that was real special for me, is that, you know, I had people do that for me, and so I feel a real responsibility to try to do that for other people. And I've had a couple of guys, you know, Frank Viola's kid came and watched me throw some, and I threw some with him in spring training. We was hanging out with him there. There's a kid named Stephen Wright who's called a couple of times that I've talked to, and then there's been some other guys who play independent ball who are trying to get into it that I've really kind of worked with or talked to or tried to help when I can. But it's still, you know, I'm hoping that what's going on presently will kind of spawn a new generation of people, organizations that'll give it a chance, one, and the other is people who want to try to take it on. It takes both.
Now, how cool was it for the three of you to see? I mean, when you see that pitch in that super slow-mo, that's crazy.
That's neat.
That was the best part of it.
Yeah.
Right? What about for you, Tim? I mean,
the cinematography was fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, for them to slow it down that slow and actually see it come out of your hand makes you want to. It makes me want to still pitch.
you know what?
You still can. You still can.
Can I borrow a pair of spikes?
Yeah, I got it in there, man. I've got
You're
it
shutting
in there.
Harvey down after the night, so it's 5 days from
There
now?
you go, yeah, sure.
Hey, you only need, what, 2 days? What am I talking about?
A day.
Yeah, I think when a lot of the, especially young boys maybe around the country, see that documentary movie, they'll get a little bit more bitter feeling about the knuckleball. And like we've said, everybody can't throw 90 miles an hour, and everybody don't have that John Smoltz slider, but here's something that you may be able to sign a professional baseball contract with. Problem is, there's nobody out there to teach it. But me and Tim are available, I know that.
Now, you guys actually, I think another part of your business should be teaching catchers how to catch it. I mean, out of the three of you guys, which is the guy that you felt most comfortable? Because that's impossible to catch. I mean, Josh has done a great job this year, but is there any one particular guy that you thought handled the knuckleball better than anyone in your career, Phil?
Bruce Benedict. Yeah. And Bob Uecker is one that really turned my career around.
Really?
When he came to Atlanta, yeah.
And what was it about them other than, I mean, you played for a lot of teams with some really great catches as well.
There was guys that wouldn't call that knuckleball with men on third base, 3-2 count, bases loaded. I'd walk a guy, I'd be out of the ball game, they thought they'd steal on me. And when Paul Richards came GM of the Braves, Atlanta, he traded Gene Oliver from us to the Phillies just for Bob Uecker. And Bob Uecker came over and said, I don't think they care if I hit 100, but I'm going to call that pitch where other catchers wouldn't call for it, you know, in situations. And when he did that, I led the league in earned run average that year, and he led the league in pass balls. And then from then on, it was, you know, somebody could catch. That's how Bruce Benedict made the club. He went to spring training, he could got the knuckleball, and he became my best catcher for years.
And what about you, Timmy? Anyone?
Obviously, for me, Doug Mirabella. He was my catcher for almost 8 years, and we had to, like you said, we had to bring him back from San Diego with a police escort back in to catch me. But I mean, he really learned how to do it the right way. I think Gary Tuck, our catching coordinator, our bullpen coach at the time, really helped him get into a comfortable position, and it made my job a lot easier knowing he was back there.
Could you talk a little bit about the fraternity of the Knuckleballs?
You see it.
Yeah, we all get real giddy. We get giddy when we get around each other. It's like you feel like a bunch of teenagers, put at a sleepover or something. It's great. I remember going down to Atlanta and doing the golf junket that you see on the documentary with Tim and Charlie and Phil, and it's so rare that when you get together with people who have walked a mile in your shoes, there's an instant bond, because we know how hard it is to do. It's not like you can just pick up a ball, get on the mound, and get big league hitters out. It takes a lot of dedication and devotion and a lot of hard work. And these men know what that's all about in a way that other people don't. And so that creates an instantaneous bond. And I'm happy to call them all my friends.
I like the part in the movie driving to go meet Charlie. To go around practicing with him. You're in the car talking about it. You can't wait to get there. And he's around looked like a high school field. It's just you and Charlie.
Yeah.
I was like mesmerized watching that.
Well, that was where it began. That was where it began for me. I met with him on that very field when I was learning, and he changed my grip, and now I throw like Tim and Phil did, and I threw it differently, but he changed that, and he changed it on that field.
Show me, Master.
Yeah. I always make the he's kind of like the part of the Jedi Council for me, I mean, he really
like
is.
Yoda now, did he?
Yeah.
It was great because it's just you and Charlie on this field. There's nobody else around.
It was cool, yeah.
Watching them, wow.
Yeah, and for someone to be willing and generous enough to take the time to do that, it's such a special thing.
It's a special bond between
Yeah,
you guys.
absolutely.
Well, when we talk knuckleball, we can't talk to any other pitchers. Only we know what we're talking about.
I would think the rest of the pitchers would be jealous of this. I think if I was a pitcher, say, hey, I'd like to get into this. This is a cool group. This is like cool kids. I want to get involved in this. Maybe learn how to throw.
Get in the freaky group?
Yeah.
The funky group?
Yeah.
So obviously here in New York, we all feel that Cy Young should be you. Obviously, it's going to be the vote. You have such a feeling to all these guys that have taught you and given so much, and you make mention of it in every interview. How important is that Cy Young, not only to you, but for those guys that helped you so much?
Well, I think it's important for a couple different reasons. I mean, I'm standing beside a Hall of Famer, so it's not like you have to give the pitch any more credibility. This guy's won 200 games in the big leagues. And so I think what it does is it continues to give the pitch, yeah, it validates it. It continues to validate how good this can be. It's not a freak of nature, or if it is a freak of nature, it's one that can produce an outcome that is incredibly favorable for a big league organization. It can be. If you started a guy that you were otherwise going to release in the minor leagues and told him, hey, you could win half as many games as Phil Niekro, wouldn't you sign up? That's 150 wins. So and the more we can kind of evangelize the knuckleball, the better, because I think it'll stick. The more success people have with it, and the more they see that you can trust it out there. You don't necessarily have to, do I go get him? Do I not? Do I go get him? I mean, it can become something better.
Well, interestingly enough, the economics of baseball, I mean, you see it with Strasburg, you see it with Matt tonight, shutting down because of innings. Now, that pitch puts so little stress on your arm. Obviously, you guys can throw a tremendous amount of innings with very little stress to your shoulders. Why don't you think that it's being taught as a pitch that could prolong a lot of pitchers' careers?
Unfortunately, people don't trust it. That's the big question, and it's something that RA is doing this year. And on the record, I think he deserves to win the Cy Young, and I'm proud of him regardless of if he wins it or not. But it's a pitch that he's authenticizing with the year that he's having this year, and it's a statement to tell organizations that you can trust it. It's very valuable. And going back to the innings thing, it's something that we all prided ourselves in as a valuable asset to the organization that we can give you innings. We can start. And I remember Phil telling me, you always have your spikes on, and I did that early in my career, that in between starts, I can go down to the bullpen and come in and give 2 innings. If it's my side day, instead of throwing a side, I can give the club innings out of the bullpen between starts. So it's something that, you know, because of the pitch that we throw, I like to say we're a pitcher and a half. We're not only starters, but we're relievers too, and we can do any facet of pitching.
Well, combined, how many days did you guys spend on the DL?
Not many.
15 days. I got hit in the side of the ribs, and that was it.
That's pretty amazing.
It's amazing. But thing about Tim is that there's never been never been a knuckleball pitcher that's won the Cy Young Award. I don't think ever came close.
Still this year.
So everybody who's ever thrown a knuckleball, including Tim and I know Charlie and Candiotti, you can't imagine how much we're pulling for this guy. I mean, I'm just
the standard bearer. You're the
I'm hopeful. We'll see.
Has anybody in the Met organization come to you talking about maybe working with somebody in the minor leagues, pitchers, who maybe are not, they think, you know what, maybe this guy has, you know, the makeup to try to learn this pitch, and maybe he's not exactly the guy who throws hard, and maybe, you know, on your tutelage or working with gentlemen like this, you know, maybe there's a young guy down there, a young R.A. Dickey in this system?
Well, you hope that there is, and I think Tim said it, you know, it just takes an organization and a front office that thinks outside the box a little bit, that can really enable you to have the platform to grow the craft of being a knuckleballer. It takes patience. It takes a lot of. I didn't get it right away. You know, I think I tied Tim's record or Charlie's record for most home runs given up in a game the first time I took the mound in '06, and so from then on, it's just been really trying to grow and figure out what my own identity is with the pitch. I spent so much time trying to be Tim or trying to be Charlie that I kind of lost what was mine, that was unique about me and throwing it. And so when I started to embrace that, I started having a lot more success. Now that could be anybody in the minor leagues that they take the chance on. Anybody could become who I am if they're given an opportunity. Now they may not, but they have that opportunity. And I wish, you got to have the intangibles.
Commitment,
yeah, and I think there's a level of humility that comes with being a knuckleballer, you know, doing whatever it takes so that you have an opportunity to show what you can do out there, whether it's pitching on a minor league field, pitching bat practice, being a pitcher and a half, and throwing on the side, out of the bullpen in between, whatever it takes. And that's different than the mentality that you kind of are brought up with. You know, you're taught to be this big, bravado, all-powerful, throw the ball hard, you know, and you have to kind of.
Your story great because you were the guy, #1 pick. You were totally fast, throwing hard. You were the guy, you were the star guy, and then you had adversity. That's why your story is so great.
Well, I appreciate you saying that.
That's what makes it good, because Tim and I was talking about that earlier, I believe, that how many organizations you got in baseball and how many pitchers are there right now in professional baseball? Maybe not in the big leagues, but in the minor leagues. There's some pretty good pitchers down there. A lot of them aren't going to make it, but they're good pitchers. They good athleticism. They got mental. Each organization take 1 or 2 of those guys out of their organization, send them to a knuckleball camp that maybe Tim and I be running, and say, and you might get a Dickey or myself or a Wakefield or Charlie Huff to do it. Just make the commitment, let us work with him, and we'll report to you. And you may have a guy come out there that you probably would have sent home last year.
You can think of it as a Moneyball type of thing, inefficient, commodity, right?
Sure.
There you go.
How important was that success?
Fit into the Moneyball equation at all. That's the problem.
Yeah,
right
all
now.
the sabermetric stuff. We don't really. We need our own metric system. That's
How important was that success in Buffalo? That game where after the first hit, you retired to 27, to you mentally realizing that, wow, this is it. You know, I've now got it. I know what to do with it.
Yeah.
That one game, do you consider that like a turning point?
I think, unfortunately, I think that's what it had to happen in order to kind of get on the radar. I mean, you're kind of behind the 8 ball as an up-and-coming knuckleballer because you're having to overcome what the perception is about you to begin with. So in order to get beyond that, you have to do something special, and thankfully that happened for me. And I was called up a week and a half later, and the rest has been history. but that's what you're kind of up against, and you got to kind of try to buck that and go beyond that. And but that was very important for me to do that, not only for myself but for the organization here to take a chance on me.
Did you guys get a chance to watch RA pitch much? Phil, you said you checked the box score.
Well, I don't have all them games you get on TV, every game you watch.
Baseball package, but I watch him closely on the internet and check the box scores whenever he's pitching to see how he's doing.
How often do you guys communicate throughout your season?
Well, I get texts.
I've been leaving him alone this year because I don't want. I'm a little superstitious, so I'm kind of like I'll send him a text like "Good job," but that's about as far as I'll talk to him when he wins the Cy Young, and I'll be at the ceremony.
And normally, like when I'm in a funk, I can't just readily turn to Dan Worthen or another pitching coach and say, hey, I need help here. So I'll immediately go to Tim or Phil or Charlie. But thankfully, I've been having a kind of a year where I feel like I'm all right now. But they're on my speed dial, and that's where I go. And
That's a great support system.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome, and I'll get encouraging texts from you guys know Charlie, so I'll have a good outing and I'll come check my phone after the game, and there'll be a big Yahoo or yippee or hit a home run. So it's great. I mean, it's a family for sure.
What would you say? This is kind of more directed towards Tim and Phil. You guys, with a conventional pitcher, you can sort of tell when it's time to hang it up, when they're starting to slow down on the velocity. You guys really don't have that problem because you're already throwing slow. When do you guys kind of know, or when did you know it was time to call it?
For me, it was the hardest decision I ever had to make, but it was a decision that I wanted to retire a Red Sox, and being there for 17 years and knowing that the opportunity probably wasn't going to be there kind of helped me make up my mind, and my family and my kids encouraged me in that direction too. So I'm happy where it is. But as far as athleticism and reaction time and all that stuff, I still feel like I can pitch today if I had to.
48, I think maybe it's time to get out.
48.
Yeah. But I think when I was up in Toronto, when Cleveland traded me to Toronto, and the Toronto released me, and Pat Gillick was the GM. I had so much respect for Pat. They made something in the paper. I think Niekro's career is over, and I just took it. I said, well, if he knows, then I'm going to go with that. And then I said, year after that, shit, I can still pitch. Why did I listen to him?
Was there ever like a batter that you knew you guys were going to just get him out every time, but every time they come out and go, I got this guy. I'm going to get this guy out. One guy you like dominated every time.
Not one guy, a handful of them.
I don't want to say names.
I don't want to name names.
What about a ballpark? What was like the one ballpark you went into? You go, I feel comfortable here. I can pitch here.
I always love pitching inside in a dome. I loved the dome because the ball moved so much, and I don't know why. I'm not a physicist, so I can't tell you the physics behind it, but it moved so much in the Metrodome or in the Sky Dome when it was closed, or Tropicana Field, it moved quite a bit, so I always enjoyed pitching inside.
Pitching the American League East, you would think it'd be tough, but you got 2 dome stadiums, so you must have been like, all right, well, this
We
is
did.
fun, right?
We did. Now there's only one left because the Twins moved out of the Metrodome into an open air stadium, but Tampa Bay is really the only club besides Toronto. And usually when I pitch in Toronto, they had the roof open no matter what the weather was because they knew.
An exhibition stadium. Exhibition stadium.
In Toronto, yeah. The stadiums never bothered me. As long as they kept the pitches around 6 inches in every ballpark, I was fine. I was fine because the other guy had to pitch in the same ballpark I was, same weather. So I didn't
The
bother.
weather never bothered you or anything? The whole day, you couldn't really get a good grip or anything?
There were probably times I got good grips and couldn't win. There was times I had bad grips and couldn't win. We're not going to go out there every time and just blow everybody away and do good. I mean, I've been knocked out of ball games so quick, I've gone back to the clubhouse and heard the end of the national anthem. We get our brains beat out once in a while, sure.
Has Roger Clemens called any of you guys?
I haven't talked to him. No, I haven't talked to him at all.
You guys probably know RA's only really tough start this year was in Atlanta in the rain. Did you guys have trouble in the rain? Did you get wet weather?
Sometimes, yeah, depending on how hard it was raining. if it was a downpour, obviously the ball gets a little slick and it's hard to hold on to, but you knew the other guy had to pitch in the same stuff, so you knew there was still a chance. Yeah, it still was wet.
You just had to work through the raindrops and just go in the whole play.
We're going to stick with that rain story, huh?
Well, it was tough for me that day. I'll just tell you that. You know, because the umpire's pouch it was raining so hard. The umpire's pouch was getting saturated, so every ball that would come to me would already be slick, and it would just squirt out. Yeah, and I would have to go to other pitches, and it just was tough. Yeah, well, I made it through 5, and sometimes that's enough. But anyway.
I don't think it'll ever be extinct, that's for sure. Even though there's one guy carrying the torch now, I think the season that he's having is going to spur some hope and another organizations to give it a chance.
What Met not named R.A. Dickey as the best knuckleball?
Oh, wow. Well, there's a handful of position players who think they do.
Yeah.
They all try to call me over and want me to grade them out. But I'd say, the other, John Roush, the big tall guy, has a pretty good knuckleball. And as for a position player, Lucas Duda has a pretty good knuckleball. But, you get on the bump, it's a little bit different.
I know John Smoltz had a good one.
Yeah. He told me
But the thing is that to go out there throwing a pitch to the batter that the batter knows what's coming. Pitch after pitch, here comes the same pitch almost just every time. Knowing that he knows that, a lot of guys can't figure that out.
But they don't know where it's going.
Well, like you can't get a fastball pitch out to say, okay, I'm going to throw you 25 fastballs in a row and say, oh no, I got to mix all this other stuff up. And the sliders and the changeup. And here here it is.
There you go.
You know it's coming. I know you know it's coming. We both know what I'm throwing. Go for it. But that's the confidence we have to have in ourselves that we can get you out.
That seems to be the big part. You have to be confident in yourself to learn this pitch, master it. But you really can't master it. But to be confident enough to say, this is how I'm going to stay in the big leagues. I'm going to throw this pitch. Everybody thinks it's some kind of freaky pitch, but I'm going to stick with it. And it's perseverance, I guess, that keeps you going.
That's a word that's been, valuable to me is perseverance. I think for the longest time, I had my feet in both buckets. I had a foot in the kind of hybrid conventional bucket where I thought I could throw a knuckleball well, and so I'd throw it 50% of the time. The other 50% of the time, I'd try to trick you with my other stuff. And when I really committed and surrendered to being a full-time knuckleballer, I got pretty good. And so that helped to really, and because I had trouble leaving it and then coming back to it and having the feel for it. And so it helps me throwing 88%, 90%, 85% of the time a knuckleball. The feel's always there in my hand. And that was a big deal for me. I finally got the muscle memory and the mechanic to where I could repeat it in a way that could produce a good knuckleball.
It's like you wonder, everything is just repeating.
Yeah, trying to just continue to repeat it. Now these guys, I've even seen Tim drop down with it. This guy, he's all over the. I'm right here for right now. So that's exciting for me because I can still grow. I feel like I got some more stuff to learn.
How cool is it for the three of you knowing that this film, obviously, 20, 30 years from now, will be out there? I got to see all you guys pitch. Some of the younger guys might not have seen Phil, but I remember that.
I saw Phil.
Right.
I knew you were this big. I know. Yeah. I remember you now this big.
I was a Che in '69. So, but how cool is that knowing 30 years down the road, for your family, for your kids, that they're going to be able to see what you guys accomplished on film?
I think it's great. It's. One of the reasons why I played as long as I did is I wanted my kids to understand what Dad did for a living and kind of, embrace it as part of the lifestyle that they were accustomed to early in their years. But to have it on film, to be able to show them when they get older, they really, really understand what it is. My kids know what a knuckleball is, trust me, at 8 and 6. So it's funny, my daughter shows me the grip almost every other day. So it's fun to be able to share some of those memories with them with this film.
What's a better movie, Moneyball or Knuckleball?
Knuckleball. No question.
We're actually outselling it right now on iTunes. Oh, really? Yeah. We're the #2 sports film on iTunes right now.
What's number 1?
I don't know.
Nobody ever heard of it, so I don't know.
The outtakes.
Could be.
No, it is. I just got to see that Rebecca in the summer. It was great. It was
good. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, I brought my son with me too. We enjoyed it. And I got lucky too. I ended up getting a poster. There's no autograph.
Oh, awesome.
That was great. That topped it off.
Guys, I got to step